What's up, guys? For those of you who don't know or are new to the channel, my name's Dylan. I do all sorts of different videos, mostly board sports related, but today's going to be a little different. So I've been sober for about 2 years now, which is becoming more popular, but still a bit of a rarity kind of in the board sports world. So I just wanted to go over one thing that kind of help me stay on a good track, help keep me like motivated and stoked, and that is reading books. And for me, I love listening to books. I love audiobooks. So I'm going to go over kind of 5 books that were pretty influential in just kind of putting me in the direction and the path that I'm on now. These books don't necessarily all deal with sobriety or substance abuse in particular, but yeah, they're just good books that kind of help keep me on track and move in the direction that I wanted to be moving. All right, so number one on the list is a book called How to Think Like a Roman Emperor. This is a super good book. I read this book probably 2-3 times a year, and it's one of my favorites. It's written by a modern day cognitive behavioral therapist in Ireland, and he kind of goes through the life of Marcus Aurelius, who is this old Roman emperor who kind of had a classic Roman emperor life with, civil war, crazy stuff going on, people trying to take his throne, and he was a Stoic philosopher. And basically, quick bullet points of Stoic philosophy. The point of life, basically, for them is to live for kind of truth, honesty, and virtue in life. Those are kind of the pillars that one should build their life around. The Stoics believe that wealth is preferable to poverty, and health is preferable to sickness. But it doesn't mean that you can't still pursue virtue and honesty, the things that really matter, if you happen to be in circumstances of poverty or sickness. It's kind of bounces back and forth between giving examples of how Marcus Aurelius dealt with different difficulties and scenarios in his life, and then it kind of relates it to modern cognitive behavioral therapy techniques and kind of how we can use these similar kind of coping mechanisms and ways of dealing with our problems that Marcus did. As far as Stoic philosophers go, there's not a ton of recorded history, but because he was an emperor and also kept a journal, Marcus Aurelius is one of the most documented Stoic philosophers. So it's a really good introduction into the school of philosophy and school of thought. So yeah, that's a good book. I always like to go to that one. Number 2 is As a Man Thinketh. This is a really short book. The audiobook's under an hour long. It was written in the 1920s, I believe. It's poetic and beautiful in the way it's worded, and in my opinion, as someone who reads quite a bit of kind of modern day self-help and the power of thought kind of style books, this book really seems like the building blocks for what all of these other books are written about now. Basically, it just describes in a very poetic way how our thoughts kind of become our reality, and how we can actually change our physical circumstances, kind of beginning with the power of thought. It's something that a lot of modern day books kind of touch on, and it's really popular in modern day self-help culture. And I just think this is a great way to kind of strip back all the fluff, and it's just 55 minutes of really good, inspiring information. I was actually listening to that book. I'd play it every single morning, first thing when I woke up most of the summer. I probably listened to it at least 30 or 40 days in a row. All right, next up we got The Book of Joy. This is a conversation between the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. I didn't know much about Desmond Tutu or really the Dalai Lama. I just kind of stumbled upon this book. It's just really cool to see two people kind of that are somewhat cemented in their respected religions just be open-minded about the topic of spirituality, and just kind of what it means to them to be a good person and to be a human. Basically, the book, you're just a fly on the wall for a 2 or 3 day conversation between the Dalai Lama and the Archbishop. I thought it was really cool to learn just a small bit about kind of the history of South Africa. That's where the Archbishop is from. And then also a little bit of history about the Dalai Lama's life and how he had to flee his homeland. It's all just really interesting. I thought it was really cool. And those are just two absolutely fantastic people. And as people, when we're looking to change kind of our thought patterns, it can be really hard to get a new group of friends just like that. So something that I found really helpful is books like this, conversations between people who I really respect their kind of way of thinking, can substitute just getting a bunch of new friends all at once, right? Kind of being a fly on the wall for this 12-hour conversation between these two, that's kind of how I start thinking and processing thoughts, and I just find it to be really helpful. All right, next up we have Tao of the Wu. This is written by the RZA, the founder of the Wu-Tang Clan, and I know some of you guys are probably laughing a little bit right now. For anybody who doesn't know, the RZA was kind of like the guy behind Wu-Tang Clan. He kind of brought everyone together. He made most of the beats on the original album. And he's just an incredibly spiritually intellectual person. By that I mean, and it talks about this in the book, he's well versed in Christianity, certain parts of Islam, Buddhism, Taoism, and just the general kind of spirituality of living like a good, healthy life. He's also very self-inquisitive. He kind of reflects back on periods of his life that weren't going so well. But I just really like this book because I'm a huge fan of the Wu-Tang Clan, so it was cool to hear more about behind the scenes. I also like that it was written in basically like a dialect he was comfortable writing in. So even though it's not like absolutely proper grammar, it reads really well. It reads like a conversation. This book actually wasn't on Audible, so I had to actually like buy it and read it. And I read the whole thing in one day, which I'm not really a reader. I like to listen to books, but reading, not so much. But this book just read super easy. And it was really cool how he touches on the similarities between a bunch of different organized religions. And that's kind of a theme, if you haven't been able to tell yet, in all these books that I like. I like thinkers that are very religiously intelligent. In other words, they kind of know what's going on, and they kind of see the deeper understanding that beneath the surface a lot of these things are trying to kind of relay the same message. And then they can tie it into how to live like a serene and happy life right now in today's culture. So this book was really good. Anyone who's interested in hip-hop or hip-hop culture and also a little bit of spirituality and likes getting a little bit deeper, I 100% recommend this book. All right, the final book on the list, number 5, it's called In the Realm of Hungry Ghost by Gabor Mate. This is probably the most this is probably the book that touches on addiction and substance abuse the most out of all the ones in the list today. So this guy, Gabor Mate, has a bunch of great books. He has another one called The Myth of Normal. I read that as well. Super fantastic. I really like kind of where he's coming from, how his thought process works. But this book called In the Realm of Hungry Ghost, it's pretty much talking about addiction the whole time. What I really like about it is while he touches on substance abuse a lot, in his eyes, it's on a spectrum of addiction that we kind of all fall on, whether we're addicted to snacking or watching mindless TV shows or we're workaholics, whatever. It's all kind of on the same spectrum. And basically, people who abuse substances, their consequences are the most obvious and also culturally unaccepted. So they're just on one end of the spectrum. That's also how I view kind of addiction and substance abuse. Maybe 20% or so of the book, he actually talks about people's stories who are in active addiction or were. He works in Vancouver, Canada, in this harm reduction facility. It's basically a hotel that gives, substance abusers and drug addicts a place to stay. They can come get their methadone every day or whatever else they need, and they get, a certain amount of free health care. He was a physician at this facility, so he would administer methadone and talk to these people and help treat them with all their other ailments that kind of come with substance abuse of these more kind of heavily addicted substances. So while he's talking about the stories, there's just some really intense and heart-touching things, and a very common theme that he touches on, but you can pick up whether he talks about it or not, is that all these people who are addicted to, heroin, meth, speed, whatever, they all have really gnarly backgrounds, and it's always just very obvious that they're just trying to cope. They're just trying to self-medicate and not hate themselves and just figure out a way to live in this world. And it really made me look at kind of our drug policy in North America and most of the world a little bit differently and opened my eyes to a kind of different school of thought. He also goes into kind of the biology and chemistry of addiction a lot, and he also takes more of a he also feels that it's more of a coping mechanism as opposed to something to do a lot with genetics, and it's just a cool kind of mind-opening book on the subject of addiction and substance abuse. All right, cool. I hope you guys enjoyed that list of top 5 books that help keep me sober. For me, staying sober revolves around staying kind of emotionally healthy and in check with myself, and also kind of checking these boxes of staying spiritually in touch with a higher power of my understanding. I don't prescribe to any particular organized religion in particular, but I am a very spiritual person. It's something that I'm always seeking. I consider myself a spiritual explorer, so I'm always kind of looking for just new knowledge, new information, and these are 5 books that really help kind of keep me in the loop and help keep me focused on things that improve my life, make me feel better, make me a better, friend, son, member of a family, coworker, all the things that kind of help me function in this world. And for me, these ideas are always changing, they're constantly revolving. So having new sources of information to kind of be inspired by and to think differently into how I view kind of spirituality and being a part of this planet and something bigger than myself is really helpful for me, and I can't really do it by just sitting down and meditating and journaling all the time. I need conversation with other people, and I need books like these to help kind of keep me focused and keep me inspired. So this video is definitely a little different than the usual board sports content. If you enjoyed, please drop a comment, hit a like, subscribe to this channel. It really means a lot. And also, if you're struggling with substance abuse or just kind of sober curious, I'll link my Instagram below. Absolutely feel free to DM me. I'll kind of talk a little more personally about kind of my journey and what's worked for me. But thank you guys for listening, and all of these books are going to be linked in the description below. And yeah, I hope everyone has a fantastic day.